My name is Lillian Carter, and I am 34 years old. At my parents' 38th anniversary in our backyard in Mason, Ohio, my sister climbed onto my husband Cole's lap in front of 40 guests. She lifted her glass and laughed. My mother raised hers and said loudly, they looked better together, that I was too busy saving strangers and filling my empty body with hormones to ever give him a real child. Everyone laughed. Not politely, not awkwardly. They laughed like it was truth. I stood there shaking, the pain of 3 failed IVF cycles still raw inside me. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Cole didn't move. Then he slowly stood up, looked straight at my sister, and said one sentence that wiped the smile off her face and turned my mother silent. What none of them knew was that this moment wasn't the end of me. It was the beginning of everything falling apart, for them. Cole and I had been married 6 years. I met him in a hospital waiting room at 3 in the morning. He was there with his mother. I was exhausted, coming off a long shift. He didn't try to impress me. He just saw me. That's why I said yes when he asked me for coffee. We built a life from that moment, a quiet one, a steady one. He taught history at Mason High. I worked as a nurse anesthetist. I earned more than him, and my mother never let that go. At every dinner she reminded me, asked when he would step up, as if he hadn't already. But Cole showed up in ways that mattered. Late-night meals, morning coffee, silence when I needed it. And during IVF, he stayed. 3 weeks before the anniversary, I came home from a 14-hour shift and found a note beside my coffee. 3rd year in a row. Whatever happens, I'm here. I almost cried. He had been counting the cycles, too. I put the card away with our most important papers. When I turned back, his phone buzzed. He looked at it, then turned it face down. I didn't ask. He didn't explain. That was us. Or at least, that's what I believed. 2 Sundays before the anniversary, my mother invited us to dinner. Megan was already there. She sat next to Cole. She always did now. That night, I noticed everything. The way she touched his arm. The way her hand lingered too long on his shoulder. The way she smiled at him like she knew something I didn't. Cole's the only man here who can carve a turkey without complaining, she said. My mother added, right, Lillian? Everyone laughed. So did I. Because I knew how to survive rooms like that. After dinner, Cole stepped outside to take a call. His voice was low. When I came out, he ended it quickly and slipped his phone away. He kissed my head. Asked if I wanted to leave. I said yes. I didn't ask who it was. Because I was afraid of the answer. He had started running alone on Saturdays months earlier. Said he needed space. I believed him. Until the day I found an envelope in his running shorts. Empty. Except for 3 words written on it. September to November. I stared at it. Tried to make it harmless. Then put it back like I never saw it. That same day, my father came over to fix the sink. Afterward, he walked into the garage. I followed. The high chair was still there. The one he bought after our first failed IVF cycle. For when you're ready, he had said back then. Neither of us had moved it since. He stood in front of it quietly. Then said, whatever happens next, I'm on your side. Not hers. At the time, I thought he meant my mother. I was wrong. The next morning, Cole was outside when his phone lit up on the counter. Renee, fourth call today. When he came inside, I asked, "Who's Renee?" "School stuff," he said calmly. Too calmly. After he left, I checked. There was no Renee at his school. Not a teacher, not a staff member, no one. That's when something inside me changed. Not loudly. Not all at once. But enough to know. Something was wrong. And whatever truth was hiding in my life was about to come out. Before I take you deeper into what happened at that anniversary, you need to understand something about my family. Because that night didn't come out of nowhere. It was built. Slowly, quietly, over years. My mother, Deborah, had always believed she was chosen. Not in a loud way, not in a way people could easily challenge, but in the way she spoke, the way she carried herself, the way she decided who mattered and who didn't. She had been the church secretary for nearly 2 decades, ran the women's group like it was her personal kingdom. She had her chair, her routines, her rules, and everyone followed them. Because arguing with her felt like arguing with something bigger than her. Like arguing with judgment itself. She married my father when she was 26. My sister Megan was born 8 months later. My mother told everyone she came early. No one questioned it. That's how things worked in our town. People believed what they were told, especially when it came from someone like her. I was born 2.5 years later. And from the beginning, there was a difference. Megan got the new things. I got what was left. Her dresses became mine. Her opportunities passed me by. When she got piano lessons, I got a Bible with an inscription inside. To the daughter who understands sacrifice. I kept that Bible for years, thinking it meant something good. It didn't. It was never praise. It was a role. And I had been playing it my whole life. When Cole and I started IVF, I didn't tell my mother everything. But she didn't need details. She only needed outcomes. The first cycle failed early. The second ended in a miscarriage. The third didn't even begin properly before it was over. Each time she responded the same way. Not with comfort. Not with support. But with distance. Like failure was something that could spread if she stood too close to it. We spent over $70,000 trying. Money didn't matter to me. But it mattered to her. Because every failure became another quiet proof in her mind that I was not built to give her what she wanted. A grandchild that came easily. Naturally. Without struggle. Without cost. The Monday after our third failed cycle, I opened the drawer where I kept all the medical files. Invoices, reports, lab results. Proof of everything I had endured. That's when I saw it. A document that didn't belong to me. A request form. Submitted to the fertility clinic's records department. Signed by Cole. Requesting full access to my third cycle. Including something very specific. Embryology chain of custody. I stared at it for a long time. 12 days earlier. He had filed it 12 days earlier. And never told me. My hands felt cold. Not angry. Not yet. Just unsettled. Because that wasn't something you requested without a reason. And I didn't know what his reason was. A week later, my mother left me a voicemail. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't mention the treatment. She didn't mention anything that mattered to me. Her voice was soft, controlled, the same tone she used when she had already decided something. Honey, I know things have been difficult for you, but Megan really needs family right now. I listened to it twice, then a third time, because something about it didn't sit right. Megan needed family? Megan, who had everything handed to her. Megan, who never struggled for anything. For a moment, I almost ignored it. Almost deleted it and moved on. But something inside me, something that had been slowly waking up, told me not to. So I called her back. "What's going on with Megan?" I asked. There was a pause. Not long, but long enough to feel intentional. "She's going through a lot," my mother said carefully. "Her marriage hasn't been stable." I leaned against the kitchen counter. That's not new. Another pause. Then, quieter this time, Brandon moved out. That got my attention. When? A few weeks ago. A few weeks. And no one told me. Not Megan. Not my mother. No one. Why? I asked. My mother exhaled slowly, like she was choosing her words. "There are things you don't understand yet." Something in my chest tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said gently, "that not everything is as simple as you think." That sentence stayed with me. Long after the call ended. Not everything is as simple as you think. That night, I sat in the living room with the lights off, staring at nothing. Pieces of things started shifting in my mind. Megan sitting next to Cole. Her touching him. The laughter at dinner. The phone calls. Renee. The envelope. September to November. The request form. The timing. Everything felt disconnected. And yet, not. Like a puzzle I wasn't supposed to solve, but had already started to. I told myself I was overthinking. Told myself grief does that, makes you see patterns where there aren't any. But deep down, I knew better. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't ignoring the feeling. I was listening to it. And it was telling me something very clear. I had trusted the wrong people. And whatever truth they were hiding was already too close to the surface to stay buried much longer. Ethan didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. He sat on the edge of his bed, laptop still glowing in the dark, replaying the audio over and over again. The voices, the laughter, the betrayal. Each time it played, it felt sharper, colder, more real. By morning, something inside him had changed. The pain was still there, but now it had direction. And that direction was forward. He wasn't going to explode. He wasn't going to confront them in anger. That would only give them control. No. He was going to dismantle everything, piece by piece. At the office, everything looked the same. People laughed, keyboards clicked, coffee machines hummed. But Ethan saw things differently now. He watched Megan from across the room. She sat at her desk, smiling, chatting like nothing had ever happened, like she hadn't just shattered someone's trust. Their eyes met briefly. She smiled. Ethan smiled back. That was the first move. Later that afternoon, Megan walked over to him, holding 2 coffees. "Hey," she said softly. "Thought you might need this." Ethan looked at the cup, then at her. "Thanks," he said calmly. She leaned against his desk, studying him. "You've been quiet," she said. "Everything okay?" Ethan took a slow sip. "Yeah," he replied, "just thinking about the future." Her expression softened. "That sounds serious." "It is." She hesitated. "You know you can talk to me, right?" Ethan almost laughed. But he didn't. "I know," he said, "and I will, when the time is right." She smiled, relieved, and walked away. Ethan watched her go, his grip tightening slightly around the coffee cup. Step 1. Let them believe everything is normal. That evening, Ethan opened his laptop again, but this time, not to replay the past, to build the future. He began organizing everything. The recordings, the messages, the timestamps, every small detail that painted the full picture. He wasn't just collecting evidence. He was crafting a story, one that couldn't be denied. Meanwhile, Cole made his next move. "Big presentation next week," he announced during a team meeting. "High-profile client. This could put us on the map." Everyone buzzed with excitement. Ethan nodded, pretending interest. Because he already knew something no one else did. That presentation wasn't Cole's. It was his. Months of work, strategy, data, vision, all stolen. And now Cole was about to present it as his own. Ethan leaned back in his chair, eyes calm. Perfect. That night, Ethan made a call. "Hey, Ryan," he said. On the other end, a familiar voice responded. "Ethan? It's been a while. What's up? I need a favor." Ryan was an old friend, someone who now worked in compliance for the company's parent firm. If there was anyone who understood rules, violations, and consequences, it was him. "I think something's off at my office," Ethan said carefully, "and I might have proof." There was a pause. Then Ryan spoke, more serious now. "Send me what you have." Ethan glanced at his screen. Folders, files, evidence. "I will," he said, "but not yet." "Why not?" "Because I don't just want to expose them," Ethan replied. "I want to make sure they can't escape it." Silence. Then Ryan said quietly, "You've changed." Ethan looked out the window into the dark night. "Yeah," he said, "I have." The next few days passed like a slow burn. Megan grew closer to Ethan again, or at least she tried to. She laughed at his jokes, checked in on him, even suggested they go out for dinner. Ethan agreed. Of course he did. Because every moment, every interaction, was another thread in the story he was building. Dinner was quiet at first. Soft music, dim lights. Megan smiled across the table. "It feels like old times." Ethan nodded. "Yeah," he said, "it does." She reached for his hand. "I miss us," she whispered. Ethan looked at her fingers resting on his. For a brief second, something flickered. Not love. Not anymore. Just memory. "We'll see," he said calmly. She smiled, hopeful. And in that moment, she had no idea. She was already part of the ending. Back at home, Ethan added one more file. A recording from dinner. Her words. her tone, her lies, everything. He leaned back, exhaling slowly. Step 2. Let them talk. The presentation day was approaching. And with it, the moment everything would begin to fall apart. The day of the presentation arrived, calm on the surface, but heavy underneath. Ethan walked into the office earlier than usual. Everything was already set. The conference room had been prepared. Large screen, polished table, bottled water neatly placed. It looked like any other important meeting. But for Ethan, this wasn't just a presentation. This was the beginning of the end. Cole stood near the screen, adjusting his tie, rehearsing confidence in front of a reflection. Megan sat beside him, scrolling through her phone, occasionally glancing up at him with a soft smile, the kind that once belonged to Ethan. Ethan entered quietly. "Morning," he said. Cole turned, flashing a confident grin. "Big day." "Yeah," Ethan replied. "It is." Their eyes locked for a second. Cole looked away first. Clients began to arrive. Handshakes, introductions, light laughter. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. Ethan took his seat at the far end of the table, placing his laptop in front of him. Calm, silent, watching, waiting. The presentation began. Cole stood tall, clicking to the first slide. "Thank you all for being here," he started smoothly. "What I'm about to show you is the result of months of strategic development." Ethan lowered his gaze slightly. Months of his work. Slide after slide. Every word, every idea, every structure. Ethan knew them all. Because they were his. And yet he said nothing. Not yet. Megan occasionally glanced toward Ethan. There was something in his silence that made her uneasy. He wasn't reacting. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even tense. That scared her more than anything. Halfway through the presentation, Cole reached the core section, the strongest part. The part that secured the deal. "Now," Cole said confidently, "this is where the real innovation happens." He clicked, and the slide appeared. But something was wrong. Cole paused. His smile flickered. Because this wasn't the slide he expected. The screen displayed a different file. Same title. Different content. A quiet ripple moved across the room. Cole frowned slightly, trying to recover. "Looks like a small technical issue." "Is it?" Ethan's voice cut through the room. Calm. Controlled. Sharp. Every head turned. Ethan slowly stood up. "I don't think it's a technical issue," he said. Silence. Cole forced a laugh. "Ethan, not now." "I think now is perfect," Ethan replied. Megan's heart started racing. "Ethan," she whispered. But he didn't look at her. "Not yet." Ethan walked toward the screen, each step steady. "This presentation," he said, "was introduced as Cole's work." He turned slightly, looking at the clients. "But that's not entirely true." The room grew colder. Cole's jaw tightened. "What are you doing?" Ethan met his eyes. "Finishing what you started." He picked up the remote. Clicked. The slide changed. Now it showed something undeniable. Original files. Dates. Timestamps. Ethan's name. A murmur spread through the room. Cole's confidence cracked. That doesn't prove anything, he snapped. Ethan nodded slightly. You're right, he said. On its own, it doesn't. He clicked again. Another file appeared. Then another. Then another. Each one building the same story. Clear. Precise. Unavoidable. Megan felt her throat tighten. She knew where this was going, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Cole stepped forward. This is ridiculous. Is it? Ethan interrupted. His voice was still calm, but now it carried weight. He turned slowly, and for the first time, he looked at Megan. The room held its breath. Megan, Ethan said quietly. Her eyes filled with panic. Do you want to explain? Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Megan's lips parted, but no words came out. Because for the first time, there was no lie left to hide behind. Ethan nodded slowly. I didn't think so. He turned back to the screen. One more thing. He clicked, and the room changed. The audio played. Clear. Undeniable. Cole's voice. Megan's voice. Laughing. Admitting. Planning. The truth didn't just appear anymore. It spoke. No one moved. No one spoke. Because there was nothing left to question. Cole stepped back, his face pale. This is taken out of context. But even he didn't believe it. Megan lowered her head, tears slipping silently. Not from regret, but from realization. Ethan stood still, looking at both of them. Not angry. Not broken. Just done. Step 3. Let the truth speak for itself. And now, there was no going back. No one spoke for several seconds. The room felt frozen, like time itself had paused just to let the truth sink in. The clients exchanged looks, confused at first, then slowly understanding. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was exposure. One of the senior clients cleared his throat. I think, he said carefully, we need an explanation. But his eyes weren't on Ethan. They were on Cole. Cole swallowed hard, his confidence completely gone now. This is being manipulated, he said, though his voice lacked strength. He's twisting things. Am I? Ethan asked quietly. No anger. Just certainty. Ethan stepped aside, giving the screen full view. Everything you've seen, he said, can be verified through internal records. He looked directly at the clients. Emails, file ownership, server logs. Each word landed heavier than the last. This isn't opinion, he added. It's fact. Megan finally broke. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, her voice trembling. The room turned to her. Cole's eyes widened. Megan, don't. But it was too late. She looked at Ethan, tears falling freely now. We were just trying to move ahead faster, she whispered. Cole said it was just temporary, that we'd fix it later. You lied, Ethan said softly. Not loudly. Not harshly. But it cut deeper than anything else. Megan shook her head weakly. I was scared. Of what? Ethan asked. She couldn't answer. Because the truth was simple. She wasn't scared of failure. She was scared of being left behind. Cole stepped forward again, desperate now. This is a workplace matter, he snapped. We can handle this internally. No, one of the clients said firmly. That word changed everything. No, you can't. The room shifted. Authority had moved. And Cole felt it. We were considering a long-term partnership, another client added, but integrity is non-negotiable. Silence. Sharp. Final. We'll need to reassess. Just like that. Months of ambition collapsed in seconds. Cole looked around, searching for control, for anything. But there was nothing left. No argument. No escape. Ethan didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. Because this wasn't victory. This was closure. The meeting ended early. Chairs moved. Papers gathered. But no one spoke to Cole. No one looked at Megan. As the clients walked out, one of them paused near Ethan. Thank you, he said quietly. Ethan nodded. That was enough. The room slowly emptied. Until only 3 people remained. Ethan. Megan. Cole. Cole exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. You just destroyed everything, he muttered. Ethan looked at him. No, he said calmly. You did. Cole clenched his jaw. This could have been big for all of us. Ethan stepped closer, his voice still steady. It was big, he said. You just chose the wrong way to get there. For once. Cole had nothing to say. Megan stepped forward hesitantly. Ethan, please, she said. He turned to her. Her voice broke. I made a mistake. Ethan held her gaze. A mistake, he repeated softly. There was a long pause. Then he shook his head. A mistake is forgetting something important, he said. This was a choice. Her tears fell harder. I didn't think you'd find out. That sentence lingered in the air. Heavy. Honest. Damaging. Ethan nodded slowly. Exactly. That was the moment she realized. It was never about regret. It was about getting caught. Ethan picked up his laptop. Everything he needed was already saved, backed up, secured. This wasn't the end of the process. It was just the beginning. As he walked toward the door, he stopped for a second. Without turning back, he said quietly, Truth doesn't destroy lives. A pause. Choices do. And then he walked out. Behind him. Silence. Real silence. The kind that comes when everything has finally been exposed. Step 4. Let them face what they've created. And now, there was nothing left to hide. The office didn't feel the same anymore. By the next morning, the silence had spread. Whispers replaced conversations. Eyes followed movements. People who once laughed freely now spoke in careful tones, as if one wrong word could pull them into the same downfall. Ethan walked in like any other day. Calm. Composed. Untouched on the surface. But everyone knew. As he reached his desk, a few colleagues gave him small nods. not sympathy. Respect. The kind that comes when someone chooses truth, even when it costs everything. Across the room, Megan's chair was empty. So was Cole's. That didn't surprise him. Around mid-morning, an email arrived. Mandatory meeting. HR department. Ethan leaned back slightly, reading it once, then closing his laptop. This was expected. The conference room felt different this time. No clients. No performance. Just consequences. 3 HR representatives sat across the table. Professional. Neutral. But their eyes revealed something else. They already knew. Ethan, one of them began, "Thank you for coming." He nodded. "We've reviewed the materials you submitted." Of course they had. He made sure they would. Another representative spoke. "We also verified internal logs, communications, and access records." Brief Pause. Then, "Your claims are supported." Simple words. Heavy impact. Ethan didn't react much. He already knew the truth would hold. "What happens now?" he asked calmly. The first representative folded her hands. "An internal disciplinary process has begun." She chose her words carefully. "Cole has been suspended pending termination review." Ethan said nothing. "And Megan," she continued, "has been placed under investigation for misconduct and breach of trust." A pause. "She may face termination as well." Silence settled again. But this silence felt different. Not tense. Final. "We also want to acknowledge something," another HR member added. Ethan looked up slightly. "You handled this professionally." She continued. "You didn't create disruption. You brought evidence. You allowed the process to work." That mattered. More than revenge. More than exposure. Control. Ethan gave a small nod. "I just wanted the truth out," he said. "And you achieved that," she replied. The meeting ended quickly. There was nothing more to discuss, because everything had already been decided. As Ethan stepped out into the hallway, he saw her. Megan. Standing near the window. Waiting. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then she slowly walked toward him. Her eyes were red. Her expression, no longer confident, no longer calculated. Just broken. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. Ethan looked at her. This was the moment most people imagine. Closure. Answers. Emotions spilling out. But he felt calm. "Okay," he said. They moved to a quieter corner. Away from everyone. Away from the noise. Megan took a deep breath. "I know I don't deserve this," she started, "but I need to say it." Ethan didn't interrupt. "I never planned for it to become this," she said. "At first, it was just small things, helping Cole, sharing ideas." Her voice trembled. "And then it got bigger." Ethan watched her carefully. Not judging. Just listening. "I should have stopped," she whispered. "I should have told you." A tear rolled down her cheek. "But I didn't." "No," Ethan said softly. "You didn't." She nodded slowly. "I kept choosing the easy way," she admitted. "And I kept telling myself I'd fix it later." That word again. Later. Ethan exhaled quietly. Later doesn't fix anything, he said. It just delays the damage. She closed her eyes briefly. I know. There was a long pause. Heavy, but honest. I did care about you, she said suddenly. Ethan didn't react immediately. Maybe I still do, she added. Ethan looked at her. Really looked this time. At the person he once trusted. The person who had slowly become a stranger. Caring isn't enough, he said. His voice wasn't harsh. Just real. Not when your actions say something else. She nodded, breaking again. I don't expect forgiveness. Good, Ethan replied. That surprised her. Because this isn't about forgiveness, he continued. It's about understanding what you chose. She swallowed hard. I do. Ethan adjusted his grip on his laptop. For a moment, it felt like everything that needed to be said had been said. I hope you learn from this, he added quietly. Her voice cracked. I will. And for the first time. It sounded true. Ethan gave a small nod. Then he turned. Ethan, she called softly. He stopped, but didn't turn around. I'm sorry. A pause. He closed his eyes for a second. Not to hold on to the pain, but to let it go. Then he walked away. Step 5. Walk away, without looking back. And just like that, the chapter was over. But the story still had one final piece left. The weeks that followed were quiet. Not the uneasy silence of secrets waiting to explode, but the steady calm that comes after everything has already fallen apart. Cole was gone. Officially terminated. No farewell, no explanation. Just an empty desk that said everything without a single word. Megan left shortly after. Her resignation came before the final decision could be made. Some said she couldn't face it. Others said she wanted control over at least one ending. Ethan didn't ask. It didn't matter anymore. Work continued. Deadlines returned. Meetings resumed. Projects moved forward. But something had changed. Not just in the office. In Ethan. One afternoon, as he sat reviewing a new proposal, his manager approached him. Got a minute? She asked. Ethan nodded. They stepped into a small meeting room. This time, there was no tension. Just opportunity. We've been reviewing everything that happened, she began. Not just the incident, but your work overall. Ethan listened quietly. You handled a difficult situation with integrity, she continued, and your contributions before all of this haven't gone unnoticed. A small pause. Then, we'd like to offer you a lead role on the new project division. Ethan blinked once. Not surprised, but thoughtful. This comes with more responsibility, she added, and a team of your own. For a moment, Ethan said nothing. Not because he didn't want it, but because he understood what it meant. I'll take it, he said finally. She smiled. Good. I was hoping you would. As he walked out of the room, something felt different. Not lighter. Not heavier. Just clearer. That evening, Ethan stood by his apartment window, looking out at the city lights. A few weeks ago, this same view had felt distant, empty. Now, it felt like a beginning. His phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. He hesitated for a second, then opened it. I know I shouldn't reach out, but I just wanted to say I meant what I said that day. I'm trying to change. I hope you're doing well. Megan. Ethan read it once. Then again. There was no anger left. No pain either. Just understanding. He typed a response. Stopped. Deleted it. Some chapters don't need replies. He locked his phone and placed it on the table. Because closure isn't always about the other person. Sometimes it's about knowing you no longer need to answer. The next morning, Ethan walked into the office with a quiet confidence. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that doesn't need it. As he passed by the conference room, the same one where everything had unfolded, he paused for a brief second. Memories flashed. The exposure. The silence. The end. Then he kept walking. Because that moment didn't define him. His choices did. And that was the lesson. Not just for him, but for anyone who would hear the story. Trust is fragile. Once broken, it doesn't shatter loudly. It cracks quietly, until one day it no longer holds. Success built on shortcuts isn't success. It's borrowed time. And truth? Truth doesn't rush. It waits. Patiently. Until the moment it can no longer be ignored. Ethan reached his desk, placed his laptop down, and began his work. Focused. Steady. Certain. No revenge left. No anger. No unfinished business. Just clarity. And in the end, that was worth more than anything they tried to take from him.